if I can get everyone to stand, please, we'll start the meeting. Say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morgan Township meeting, May 15th, 2018, 7 p.m. Get a roll call, please.
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
All present?
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the Morgan Township Board of Trustees meeting minutes from April 24th, 2018 as written.
Second?
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants from 4/24/2018 to 5/15/2018. Warrant number 310-2018. Through 381-2018. Warrant number 8533 through 8567 for a total of $106,857.28. Second.
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Do we have anyone from the audience that has anything they'd like to say tonight? Frankie?
Status on, oh, I'm sorry, that in?
Nope. I'll have you come up and your name and that at the podium.
I'm Frank Tompkins. I live in Okeana, 6547 Okeana-Drewsburg Road. And naturally, every time we have a little water episode, we kind of wonder what the status of the project that is going to be or is being talked about being done on Church Street and some of the details of it, if possible.
I was going to cover that in my report, but if you'd like, I can
No, that's all right.
address that
We'll
right
hang
now.
around. We'll hang around.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Marshall, zoning administrator.
Okay. All right. The variance hearing on the 26th was held, and the BZA granted the variance to the Taylors for their side yard. They have submitted an application for zoning, and it was approved 10 days after the variance meeting, so they will be building their garage. The zoning commission meeting is tomorrow at 7 p.m. here in this building, for those of you who would like to attend. Trustees and Jeff, G, you have in your zoning packet a draft copy of Article 4 definitions. Now, this is just a draft. I'm giving it to you so that you can begin your work at looking at it and compare it to, and I will have something else to give you in terms of exactly what we did change, but I wanted you to look at this first. I will tell you this, that all of the most of the numbers have changed. It's been a little bit better organized. We go from 17 pages down to 9. Okay, actually, that would be 4.5 if we do it both sides. So just in the definitions alone. You do not see any corrections or changes. You're seeing what is considered the first draft of those that will be submitted to the Planning Commission, hopefully by your next meeting, Amy, but we'll see. I've got to call Zeb and find out all those steps I need to get what I need to give to him when I do it, and everything too. So once I get, so tomorrow night we will be going over those carefully to see if there's any mistakes that I may have made already. I wish you guys would do the same, and everything. Your feedback is definitely wanted. Everything. You will note that we do have in there, on the very first page, I believe, business. If it's not on the first page, it's on the second, okay? I may be mistaken. Okay, we are probably going to add a definition for all-terrain vehicles, which was suggested by Mr. Grove at the meeting, the April meeting, and everything else to help us with those kinds of issues that we have, and where they can be used and where they're permitted, et cetera, okay? You also have in your packet a sample of the first notice for inoperable vehicles. And I did mail an attachment to the trustees. Everyone has this one. This letter has also been reviewed by Mr. Grove, and he puts his stamp of approval on it in his own way, and everything else. He had one.
Somebody has a phone close to the mic?
I didn't think my stomach was rumbling that bad. Please also note that there will be one or two enclosures to this letter, as noted at the bottom. The enclosure will include the article number that the person is in violation of, which happens to be 18.9A1 for inoperable vehicles. And also, I am wanting to see if I can also include a photograph of the vehicles themselves as proof.
What about the ORC?
I-
Because if
I-
I'm not mistaken, as a trustee, we've got to go through that.
Okay, I took that out, and everything else too, but I can add it in, okay? I think the way I had it worded, it was kind of awkward, and then, so I figured, I said, well, you know, I could leave it out, but I'll put it in, okay? So I'll add that to it.
Does
Again, this
section
is-
18.9A1,
Deal directly
does
with
it
junk vehicles.
specify or state the ORC?
Off the top of my head, I don't think it
If it
does.
does, then this
Then
would be
it would be
sufficient.
covered, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check that once
I'll
I'm
have to go
finished
back
with
and
my
reread
report.
that, too.
Okay, I'll check it once I'm finished with my report here.
Okay.
Before I go to number 4, I'd like to talk about an interesting number 4. I had a person by the name of Rob Smith call me this week, or actually, I had a number of people come to me and say, hey, have you seen the RV or the camper that is down at 6228 Cincinnati Brookville Road? And I said, well, no, I haven't driven down that way in a day or two. And so I did drive down, and there is a camper parked where the old trailer used to be that you helped get removed many, many years ago, okay, while you and Daryl and Nancy or Brett. I think you were the spur.
Trying to remember if that happened when I was here before. I think that happened before me.
Maybe it was just before you or something. Anyway, I know that I have a folder on it, on the property stuff, so, and everything else. His desire for this is, he just purchased apparently all the lots, okay? His desire is to clean it up, but he wants to make it a recreational area for his family. He wants to leave the RV there, or the camper there, because he has sewer and electricity on the property, but it's zoned B3, and therefore could probably not work. So just to let you know that if he does, okay, I have a couple of things I'm researching, and I was going to give him my answer by the end of the week. Okay.
Can he have it rezoned?
He could, that would be
The only option?
the only option, but then we would not be able, the only thing he would be able to do then would be to replace the trailer, and he would have to place it over the same footprint.
Well, as Hasn't that been vacant more than 2 years?
Yes, it has.
So he can't do that either.
He couldn't, and it's not large, and, well, he could build a tiny house on it, but, you know, I told him, I said we would work with him on it, but I'm just trying to find all options, and that's why I'm presenting it to you. If you do think of something, because it backs up to the railroad tracks, and, that's, and it would be nice to see the property kind of cleaned up and everything too. as
Did he
part of
buy all the lots?
I think he said he bought 3 of them. The one that's the triangle, is for sure, that's the one that's the camper's sitting on. But he said he had 2 smaller ones as well. I'll check that too again. All right. And number 4, I approved a zoning certificate for Gary Hasselbrock to have a fence built on a small lot owned by Larry and Gary beside 6405 Okeana, Drewsburg. The fence was finished this week, but this is just to let you know there may be an issue over the fence. And I want to kind of prevent gossip, I guess, I don't know, that zoning or the township is allowing something that shouldn't happen, is basically what I wanted to do here. I queried several people over my approval, and they told me that there are easements on this small lot, and it's 15 feet wide, and it goes back to their property that Larry and Gary own behind 6405, okay? But, and people were telling me that there were easements on it, that people had the right to go back there. Well, yes, there's a well back there, okay, that people got water from over the years. So I followed up with Gary, and he stated that he had his lawyers research the deeds, and no easements or restrictions were found during the research. I'm going to assume that that is true, and since he said he had his lawyers do it. I cannot, I tried to go and find deeds off of the deeds records to see, and all I'm getting are the deeds of warranty that he gave me copies of. And the deeds of warranty state that they own the property out and full, okay? So, they don't state whether there's easements on it or anything else like that.
Well, if there's any issue over that fence, it would be whoever
It
is
would
the
be between,
complainant and
right,
his lawyer.
exactly, it's
We
between.
don't have a piece of that.
We don't have a piece of that. It's going to be over the neighbors. I'm just trying to make sure that I did the right thing by granting it, okay? You might say, okay? Rather than, and stop it now, rather than let it roll into something bigger. And it will go between them. I know the fence is up. It was finished this week, right? I went down on Monday morning at 8:30.
Well, we've heard some scuttlebutt on that, going on down there too.
Right. I understand that. And I went down there at 8:30. We marked off to where the first post was supposed to go. It's set exactly 6 inches from the line and almost 60 feet from the center of the road. Okay? According to the zoning regulations, it needed to be at the edge of the house, the front of the house. So the porch is where I put it, because he was already 45 feet off the road anyway. And so I just put it right there. And it's supposed to go straight down and back, and there will be access to the well via a little pull gate, a pull chain gate, they've told me, that will go up or down and move. Okay, just to let you know that.
I'm not involved.
Well, I'm just, you can help me.
Relay the message.
Relay the message. They will still have access to the water, okay? It's just that both Gary and Larry own the properties outright.
I would think our Val would know. He knows a lot about surveying in Okeana. Told us years ago when he surveyed for Key Bank years ago that if you don't start at the right hand, then you'll throw the
finding the PIDs would,
Right.
it would be the biggie too.
Have you surveyed Okeana? How many times, Frank? A lot. Yeah.
Survey, my sister replaced the house that we grew up in. And after it was built, the county told her it was in the wrong place, it should be next door. And there you are. And there
Yeah.
you are.
And there you are.
And then I try to point out to them, well, then they said, well, you're gonna have to get a lawyer. Well, that's their mistake.
Yeah.
It's been straightened out, but that was, you know, the house was in the wrong place now. Even though it replaced the one that was there.
Okay, and then,
It can happen.
okay. Any further discussion on that? All right, and then,
I do have
yeah,
a question about it.
sure.
Like I said, this has been some talk around town down there, you know, a lot of us, nobody knows exactly what's going on, but everybody has an opinion and whatever. But it came up that there was actually a public right-of-way that was established to get to that well. That's back there. And it was established in 1911 or 1912, something like that. It was.
Okay, so 1911,
If that's the case,
1912.
how can they fence it and put a gate on it?
So a public right away.
Yeah, that well back there's been back there forever. Back in the 60s, they actually put an electric pump, a pump on it that would really draw the water up.
Okay. Well, Mr. Tompkins, I will,
Yeah,
I will,
the volunteer, we used to, fire department used to get
water from it.
And there's still people hauling water out of there, but like I say, we understood that there was a public right of way.
Okay,
And I was wondering, you know, how that would, if that's a fact, if it is.
that's why I was searching for written deeds, full deeds. Instead, I've got warranty.
Would there be anything in the history of the township on it, or any records go back that far, or?
I don't have any history here. We'd have to go to Jill Evans, I guess, probably. We'd have to go to Jill Evans or something like that for the history. I will contact the records department and see what we can find. I mean, and everything else. But for the moment, his fence is built, okay? And everything else, all right? And then number 5, executive session, and you can see why.
Okay,
All right, that's it. You have any questions for me?
I am good.
All right.
Mr. Brown, Road Department.
The only thing I have is that we mowed all the roadsides for the first time, all before the 1st of June like we're supposed to. Got a bunch of road projects that we're trying to get underway. Would have started them last week, but we wanted to get that mowing done, so that's out of the way. Keep the cemeteries all up nice for Memorial Day coming up and for Mother's Day that just passed here. Most of our projects are just where there's, for people to know, there are a few roads that we still have some potholes in, and those are the ones that we're gonna grind out and put new blacktop in, so we haven't forgot about them. We're just hopefully get to them next week. We're gonna get started on that, hitting that pretty heavy, so. Just talked to Beamer about the new truck bed that's supposed to be in next week, maybe even the end of this week, so they might be calling us to get that down there to get that going. And then my arm mower having some electrical issues with it. I got it down at Triple D's. He's trying to figure out what's going on with that. And then our one dump truck we have down there, we're having a lip welded on the back. Well, it's a removable lip, but he's welding us up one. We can, for when we do our chip seal, we can back up to the chip seal box and it'll let it dump into the box instead of missing the box.
Is the arm mower still the same one that we sent back last year that was blowing the fuses? Is that the
Yeah,
same?
this is something different, so, but yeah, it's the same one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Anything for Rob?
Nope, thank you for moving the speed signs to Shandon. That was well received. I got a few phone calls thanking
Now,
you for doing that.
the day of the Strawberry Festival, I am gonna put them on the portable signs down by the firehouse where the majority of the traffic's gonna be, so I'm gonna put them in a little tighter, a little closer there, but I guess got them on the edges of town so people coming in.
Okay. Hopefully slow them down. All right, Mr. Galloway, Township Administrator, also Fire Chief.
All right, first things on the administration side, little update on the Miami University intern and the internship program. You should have received a email from me on the resume of Jacob Bergerman. Pretty impressive resume as an intern coming here. Dr. Russo from Miami University called me, I want to say last Thursday, and told me that he had an immediate family emergency and had to leave school to go take care of it. He was not sure he was going to return for the summer internship program. He really wanted to be here. So Dr. Russo is scrambling. He had some backup folks that he is kind of going through now and interviewing as a backup if Jacob does not return by the end of May to back here to do his internship. So that's where that is. We tentatively held off throwing dates at Jacob to meet with him and for us to meet with him until he, gets his family matters together. So that's where that program is now. Second of all, we are in the middle of now starting this program. It's being done by Lieutenant Bamba. We will work on identification cards here. We're now doing what data we want to have on the front and the back, but I'll just hand out a couple of demos to let you see. We took a machine that we had. Lieutenant Bamba and Buddy Jackson got it running, got some new ribbons for it, so we can produce all these now ID cards in the township, which we will do with all employees, elected officials, and then all the board members as well. So what we're looking at now is what pertinent information we would have on the front of it, on the back. For the fire department, we probably have all the qualifications on the back of it. After a paramedic, whatever, hazmat tech, whatever will be on the back, because NIM's compliant that we have to do. And then go for what the trustees want. And then also board members, if the zoning board members are going out in the field, they'll have some kind of identification that this is who they are. So as you go through that and look at it, if you think of some stuff you'd like to see on there, by all means let me know and I'll pass that on to them. We'll have a standard photo head shop against the same backdrop wall that'll be for everybody. So, third in your packet, you'll see I gave you a couple of weeks ago a Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance black binder with some information to look at. The gentleman, Skylar Miller, had emailed me yesterday afternoon wondering what was the status and if he would like to come speak. He sent me what's the paper clippings you have there where Sycamore Township, Delhi have joined the program. From what I read quickly in this, it looks like it's just that Morgan Township would be kind of a help push the message out there for residents in the township to go to do some kind of a solar project. I don't know what the incentives would be through that alliance or what, but perhaps now if you would like, we can have him come to a meeting and speak a little bit more if you would like to do that, and I can let him know. I'll let you, the three of you, tell me what you'd like to do next.
I think it'd be worth listening to.
Okay.
That's up to the other two as well.
If we do, I think we should also contact Butler Rural. They have programs too.
Okay. Give them all a chance. Okay. Absolutely. I will make a note of them, and then I will call, I believe I know the lady that does the Butler Rule. I think it's Lisa Hageman that does that, so I'll contact her as well. So, okay. Okay, moving over to the fire department side. I'll have Chief Griffith come up and do the monthly run reports, as he will do for April of 17 to 18. So number one will be a motion for a reclassification of firefighter paramedic Justin Brim to raise his pay to $2 an hour. He became a paramedic, and he just passed his test with Lieutenant Galloway and is now an actual member of the department as an acting paramedic for a $2 raise now to that status to $16.10 an hour.
So moved.
Second. Crowd popper?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Rightfully so.
All right,
He worked his butt off for that.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mr. Brucker,
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Number 55-2018.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, so Morgan Township has had a process in place for several years on reimbursing folks that we send to training, whether it's fire inspector, fire investigator, any type of training like that. And one of the ones is we send them to paramedic school. They pretty much, as did Justin, pay for his entire paramedic school. And then we have a training agreement with that entity, and in this case is with Justin, that we will reimburse him back a third of his tuition if he passes all of his state tests and then become a paramedic with us. So Connie has his total out-of-pocket, what he paid for paramedic school. Our third, Morgan Township's third, would be $1,956. And with that, he now he signed an agreement where he has to work 3 years at 1,000 hours minimum a year. If he leaves prior to that, we prorate that at how much he still owes us back, and he has to pay us back the difference. But with him passing everything and all that, it's our share now to do that third of a reimbursement back at $1,956. And that will come out of the EMS billing fund 2281.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mr. Brucker,
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Number 3, we talked about this. We did not get our AFG grant from FEMA. So we are closing out our program to change out our SCBA air packs from the 22-year-old air packs to new MSA G1s. Last year we bought 8 packs and 16 bottles. So to complete outfitting the entire department, we need to replace the last 8 and 16 bottles. You have in there the quote from Vogelpool, the MSA rep. That would be $46,452.28 for the additional 8 air packs and 16 bottles. That would come out of the fire levy fund of 2111.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mr. Brucker,
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Can we get some different masks?
Yeah, we'll discuss that one. That's an actual personal one that we'll do in executive session. But yes, absolutely. Okay, the last one is Station 141 addition. I'd sent Tom a little bit of information to read over just to see if I was reading over the Ohio Facilities Manual correctly. And I believe, if I'm reading it correctly, that we do not, in the design build, have to hire a pre-architect to draw the specs up to then send it out to the architects. Is that what you had as well? So we were told different at the workshop that's not accurate. If you go back, and as I researched and went back, I think it's best that we now go back to the design, bid, build. So the design would be that we would put the RFP out, and then basically it's done. You already had seen it a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and add what the type of construction would be. And then from that point, take 3 interviews, interview the 3 architects firms, have the one we pick draw the plans, and then put that out for a bid. And then from there, have the contractors do the bid. So they call that a design, bid, build. And that, to me, looks like the better way and the better route now to go and to pursue than the other one that we had originally. With that, I got a call last week from Brenda Weimer from Dinsmore, just wondering where the bond was and what her paperwork was. And I said that the month of May, we would start talking about that and her disclosure paperwork and all that. Left her a message. She hadn't called me back yet, but I'm assuming what I told her was accurate, that we're still in that process and probably be a late May, early June decision on that. So if you're good with that, that's probably where I'll work through and then send you an updated RFPs. And we really just have to put it out and then legally notice it out and all that. And then can also push it out to architects as well, locally, and move forward on that part of the process. So if that's...
Connie, on the MSA air tanks, do we need a PO too? Because we just made a motion to approve it, but we didn't really make a motion for a PO.
Yeah, we would need.
Need a
You
PO.
said the price, so I
You did say
assume.
I did see the price, and the PO would be off of that invoice that you have, that quote that's in there.
Okay,
Quote, yeah, it's a long quote.
okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's all I have. I have one executive session issue, which you kind of already tentatively discussed. But that's all I have, unless you have stuff for me.
No, thank you.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Reinhardt.
Wait.
Assistant Chief, all right.
It's thrilling to hear this. As you have the runs, it's thrilling stuff. The runs January, April 2018 verse 17, we are down a few runs, mainly because as I look back in it, last year we were putting the new templates in with Ross, and we were getting a lot of canceled and dispatched en route, dispatched and canceled en route, and those are dropping down as the dispatch and the sheriff's office gets that more fine-tuned, and Ross has made some changes on their end. So, we had 52 for the year, and those are going to start to disappear. So our number.
They can change in a heartbeat, though.
Yeah, they can change the heartbeat.
Don't say anything.
I am not, because I do not want to be up tonight unless it's really good. So I'm not going to use the Q word. We were trending down on EMS runs, and that's just a blip. I mean, it's just a cycle, the nature of the work. We did have a couple into Ross on Sunday because they were a little short on Unit 3. But that was no transports to other entities last month. There'll be a couple this month. But other than that, there's nothing strange or big in these numbers. Let's see if anybody has questions. I'm not going to use the quiet word.
Thank you, sir. All right, now, Ms. Reinhardt.
Okay, I have packets for the 3 trustees, and then the last one is for Dale. There's some information.
Take the top one, bottom one's for Dale, next one's for Jeff.
Sure, that one's for Dale.
Okay, first of all, we finally received our EMA reimbursement for the deployment for Hurricane Irma. I got it out of the mailbox last Monday. It was deposited into the bank Monday afternoon. So we have received our new amended certificate from the Butler County Auditor that shows that we had new revenue that we had not put in our budget. So that's been taken care of. I gave each of you the copy of the grassroots clippings for May. I also received a request for a resolution to be made, and I've given that to each one of you. It has to do with a proclamation or a resolution about cancer. I've given it to you so you guys can read it over, and then if you decide you want to do something with it at a later meeting. But that's the information that I received from this individual.
I got that too.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, I looked, and it looked like it had only come to me, so that's why I give it to you. I wasn't sure if they sent it to everyone or not. I have received
That's for
quotes.
September, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
for September,
So-
yeah.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Okay. I've received quotes for our health insurance renewal from CAI, who we currently get our health insurance from, and also from HR Butler, which the chief and I talked to them to Trent in January when we were at the conference in Columbus. The chief and I haven't had a chance to sit down and go over these, but we will look at them and try to pick out our best options for you to look at and decide. I will say that our current health insurance, if we stay with what we have, would be a 10% increase, which I do not feel that we can afford to do. So I'm trying to find better options And maybe, the employers are gonna have to pay a little higher deductible or something, but we've gotta keep this in line, and not keep going up with it. I've also included an auditor's checklist for public records compliance. This came out of my hometown newspaper. Up in Dark County, they got several entities for not following all of the things for the public records compliance, including trustees or elected officials not having the class that they need for the term. I'm just giving this to you now. I am going to start working on our public records policy, going through it point by point to make sure that we are in compliance, because this is apparently one of their hot buttons that the auditors are looking for when they do the audits these last 2 years, or last year and this year. So we'll kind of head them off at the pass and make sure that we've got everything that we need.
We might be able to utilize the intern.
Yes.
If we,
Yeah,
when
I mean,
those come through.
yeah, I looked at ours briefly, and I think we've hit most of the points. The big thing that I can see is that it says we have to have a poster, like out here in the lobby somewhere, that has our policy. Well, we have the policies out there in little folders, but it's not a poster. So I think we're gonna have to, maybe come up with something there. But other than that, I think, we're pretty well, have all the points that they want, but I wanna look at it a little closer. And the last thing is, I just wanted on record that I did have to send out checks on Monday, May 7th, with only 2 trustee signatures. And I only wanted on record in case it comes through as an issue in the audit, why did I not have 3 signatures? I just, like I said, I wanted on record that they went out with just the 2 signatures.
Okay.
And that's all that I have.
Anything for Tom?
Nope.
All right, Mr. Cole.
The only thing I have tonight were a couple things. One is, I have had some questions about a hazardous material collection point, and that, Chief, that might be a question for you. Do we have anything that's on the premise for hazmat material?
We do not. Usually solid waste will do something once, twice a year. They'll usually either do it at the dump, or they'll have a drive-through, usually at the engineer's office. And that's like tires and things like that. Anything hazardous waste has to be coordinated, like Ohio EPA for some kind of a pickup. They have like an abandoned drum program and all that kind of stuff. But for us to have a hazardous material pickup, we don't want to have that here because there's so many regulations and groundwater protection stuff. That's why it's better to solid waste who has the means to do it and have their collection points. I can find out when the next one is.
I think Ross does it too, don't they? The school? The Ross does it at the school too.
Ross might,
Once a
probably
year.
does it there, but they have to already pre-inspect the ground, make sure it's nowhere near, they have an accidental spill nowhere near groundwater, wells, and all that stuff before they actually do that.
Well, if they're probably on a schedule already to do that, so if we could just get that information, I could pass it along to the folks.
I think some of that is already on our homepage.
And I'll double check with
Okay.
them.
Do we still have the brochures
Yep,
outside
yeah,
out
still out
there?
there.
Okay.
The other thing I had was, when we talked about the tower in the back, I had a chance to talk to some of the people up in Hamilton at the commissioner's side, and I was referred to the distance within that tower is a negotiable distance. They're not hard over on any requirement to stay a certain distance away from that. I do have a name of a gentleman, Mr. Frankie. Chief, you might know Mr. Frankie, do you?
We know Mr. Frankie.
Okay. Okay, so he's, the direction I was given was, it was a pretty clear shot. And tell me if he is not the right guy that would be dealt with concerning this, or if you have mentally gone down this road before.
No, we
If-
talked about meeting with him and me meeting with the county administrator, because that radio thing is all in the county commissioners. And he, when they started the radio system, he was originally hired to work for the commissioners to get the radio system up. And that's why that contract and all that is a commissioner's contract. Once the radio system got fully functional, then he in turn went over and got hired by the sheriff to run the radio system of the sheriff. But
Yeah.
the whole building of the system was the commissioners.
So they are the final authority
Yep.
of who, so it sounds like we got a green light from the commissioners then to use that land as we see appropriate.
I think we need to reword that contract.
Well, that's the other part we discussed, because they haven't paid us since 13, they're violating their own contract. And personally, I'd like to get something more than $1 a year out of something we can't use the land for, like our $1,400 a year payment for fixing the radios and things like that, than $1. That's, but I'll talk to Matt, and we had done some drone pictures of it the other day to actually show the 45 feet of it and the usable and unusable property before I called and had a meeting with them. So we have that all documented. We were out there last week and took video and pictures from the drone, so you can actually see the space that we can't do anything with for that documentation. We had that meeting, so I'll get with Matt, but I'd like to also meet the commissioner, because again, it's a contract void of the county contract, so.
So it sounds like they're saying use it wherever you want to, but you want to put them onto a contract to try to generate some revenue off of it.
Well, no, not
Or
necessarily.
redo the whole
If-
contract
if
overlay.
if they're gonna write a new contract that takes away the 100 by 100 and says it's 5 feet past the fence line, then that's okay. Now we have, but the contract that's from 2007 clearly says 100 foot by 100 foot or 10,000 square feet. So I think the trustees in township need to renegotiate. If they're saying, oh yeah, you can do some of that land, I don't wanna take anything the county says verbally. I wanna have that in writing.
In writing.
I've been burned by that many a time. So I want a new contract in writing that says 5 feet out from the fence line, from that point on, the township can build slabs and salt buildings and whatever.
Well,
And
at our
if that's
last,
the case, then that would benefit the township more and say, you wanna stick with $1 a year, that's fine, it's just, you need to pay the $1 a year, even though it's $1 a year. I mean, they haven't paid it since 13, so.
That we know of. I mean,
Yeah, no, we could
I
be
can go
farther
back,
than
yeah.
that. And the other thing is that I think in that contract, every 5 years, they automatically roll the agreement over, but it says they're supposed to notify us when they roll the agreement over, and if we have any issues or changes, and I don't think they did it last year when it was for its 5-year renewal.
haven't
They
since
just
I've been
did
here.
it automatically, and we only caught it when Rob found out we can't build 45 feet out from the fence.
Okay.
So I'll meet with them. I mean, that's why I was getting all the pictures and the documentation to go meet with them and say, here's our deal. But I think that the 3 of you, for protection of the township, should say, we want to rewrite this contract to say it's 5 feet outside the fence line and that's it. The rest of the land is back to ours. We can put a salt barn there if we want it. So
I agree with that.
Yep, I
that's
do too.
just, you know,
It needs to be rewritten.
I've had a lot of verbal words from them, and it's come back to not be true, so I think you should have it writing in the contract.
Okay, thanks, chief. That's all
Absolutely.
that's all I
Thank you.
got.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brown.
All right, I'll give you a little update on the flooding, or as Butler County Community Development calls it, the Okeana Stormwater Sewer Project. Okay, actually, I was caught off guard. I got an email on Monday, April 30th, from Desmond Mayada, who works for the Butler County Community Development. It says, Tom, we're planning to fund the $105,000 toward the Okeana Stormwater Sewer Project. Funds will not be available until fall of 2018, and the project may be able to start construction in fall of 2018 or spring of 2019, according to the Butler County Engineers' schedule of other projects. This is what threw me. David Fear mentioned that there may be an issue with the township's matching fund portion of the project, estimated at $34,260. There are a couple options that we, could help maybe assist the township with. One is to postpone the project till next year, until the township has money for the matching funds. 2, we could cut back on some of the estimates from Butler County Engineering, either cut back on the project or have the township road crew do some of the work. Please call me to discuss. So I called him, And he said, first off, I want to apologize. I wasn't here when you came up to see me on April 26th or 27th. And I said, well, hold off right there. I did not come to see you. And he said, oh, well, David said that Mr. Brucker or Rucker or something like that came up. And he said, I wasn't familiar with you, so I looked at the township website under the trustees, and there's an Updike, a Kolb, and a Brucker, so anything ending in ER I thought was you. That's why I copied you or sent this to you. I said, well, it wasn't me. So he got David Fear, and he pulled up the 3 pictures of the trustees, and it was you, Mr. Kolb.
When I went up and talked to the chief about the tower, I got the
Well,
last update on
Where
that.
did you get the information? We don't have matching funds.
I didn't, all I said was, I was not aware of our financial situation to put the funds to the cost of the program, because I couldn't speak for our financial officer, and that whatever the requirements were gonna be, then we would work with what our matching funds would be. So,
Well,
I didn't leave it at one way or the other, I just was there as a receiver of information.
Well, it came off as you were telling them that the township didn't have the money, and he was looking to me to make a decision whether we wanted to proceed with the project or take the $105,000, and the county would have put it toward another project in the county, and we would have been
Well, I tell you
out of luck again.
one thing that I was, when I had the discussion, they said the project was fully funded. And then they said, well, our portion's gonna be $34,000. So fully funded, and our portion is a third of that, was kind of a shock that we were gonna have to come up with that much money.
I've been
We
saying
knew
that
that.
since,
We knew that.
knew that.
Yeah, okay, so,
So
great, okay, fine, so we're gonna have a big piece to pay, so, is any of that negotiable, you know? Where is,
it's just like when we do road projects, we have to put up a certain
right,
percent.
I understand, but I'm saying
This
is,
was approved a long time ago, a while back. We've been trying to get this grant, and we knew we were gonna pay a percentage. Well, our percentage came out at 34. We've got the money set back. Had it set back for a long time. We'd have been a year earlier had we not got dinged on a previous thing that happened here, because it bumped us out of it.
Mhm.
But it happened,
And then last year, they had an emergency in Butler County and pulled the funds
and we got
to
bumped.
fund that project.
And that was for the nursing home, the county nursing home, which they needed the money for that more than they said for this, so we got bumped another year.
right, no question, I know the history. I know that we've struggled with trying to get it done, so.
So they copied Rob on it too. Rob was out of town. He got the email on his phone, and his wife wouldn't let him respond. So as soon as he got back to work, he called me, and it was like,
No
he's
minutes.
ready to, what are you doing going up to the town? I said, it wasn't me. But, did you identify yourself? Where did they get Brucker?
Of course I did, Tom, why would I go up there and say I'm Mr.
Well,
Brucker?
Kolb and Brucker or Rucker sound nothing alike.
That's what I'm kind of shocked
Did you,
to hear
you got
that.
business cards, did you give him a business card?
Yes, I believe I did,
Well,
but I mean, I don't know why he would have jumped to Brucker when.
because he said it, you said
And
it.
who was it that you talked to?
I talked to Desmond Mayada.
Yeah, I didn't even see.
He wasn't in town, he was out of the office, so you talked to David Fear.
Well, I talked to Dave, and that he was the one who we talked about the tower specifically. But on the funding side, that was more of a Don Dixon conversation, not a David Fear conversation.
So why did you go to him? Because I just told you before, it's not the commissioners that's gonna do it, it was Desmond Morada. I even told you that, and that we
Well,
would get
because
the money in the fall.
They had the latest intel when the money would be dropped to our budget. And as of the last,
in the fall, right?
last meeting,
Yeah.
and of the last meeting, we couldn't definitively say if that was the case or not.
I didn't know exactly what month, but I knew it was around the September range.
And I think I mentioned last time that I would follow up and ask so I could let folks know when this money would be coming their way, especially after the last rain event,
Yeah.
because it just needs to be moved on, and you guys know that, I know that, and everybody knows that, so that's where we went.
Okay, I just was kind of upset when they called me and said, you know, he was sorry that he missed me, and I'm like, I wasn't there, and, you know, they obviously did not get your name as Cole, but he did identify you as, from our website, as, yep, the third picture there, that's the gentleman that I was here and I talked to, so, I just, we need to communicate more, I think. I think we have a lack of communication, and we can't, one trustee cannot go out and speak on behalf of the township without the other trustee. I mean,
You might want to check, because last time we had got together, I had mentioned that I would be going up there
no,
and
you said you were
discussing.
gonna go talk to
So-
the commissioner about we were talking about the tower project, or the tower, and the fence around that. So, I think we need to,
You asked when the money was gonna come, and you found that out, but we never said we didn't have the money. Yes, ma'am, would you like to speak? Come to the podium, please.
Case, Okeana.
come on up to the microphone, Judy.
I realize you got a problem, who did what, but what are we intending to do if we get the money to do the project? What's the plan? Do you know that yet?
The plan is that once the money drops in August and September, it will go into a contracting arena where it will be contracted and bidded against to do the job based on the engineer's description of work, and then that contract will be let. And then that lead time, and I think that's what Mr. Brucker had mentioned, that it would be fit into the schedule of available contract work to complete that work. So we've been promising this for a long time, and I'd love to see it get done, and just as these gentlemen would too, but as soon as humanly possible, we would want to get that done.
Besides getting something done as soon as possible, we would like to know how you plan to get that water where it needs to go.
Okay, there is, what it appears as it looks like right now, the water is flowing down Church Street, and as the valley and the ditch in Church Street fills up with sediment, it's forcing the water across Church Street down toward the township center when it floods. Now, I think the last time it flooded, the behavior of that water didn't follow the classic scenario because it didn't run down and hit Mr. Tompkins' house. Did it not go straight back, Frank, or how, describe the last event, will you?
Can I come up there?
Sure.
My sister and I grew up in the same location that she lives now, a different house, but that's where we grew up. In 1959, we pretty much had I was 13 years old, and we had pretty much the perfect storm. Hard winter, frozen ground, a lot of snow, and all of a sudden it warmed up and started raining. All that water, that was the first time we had, in my lifetime, water on Drursburg Road in Okeana. Some of that was attributed to a fishing lake out near Indiana that let go, because when the water finally came up, it was coming slow, and all of a sudden it jumped. It came up so fast and went down so fast that my dad had to hold the back door of the house open to let the water out so it didn't tear the door off. And he stood in the doorway and grabbed stuff that was worth keeping as it was washing out of the house. The next time water was across the road that I can recall was in 1995, when we had two 100-year floods in less than a month.
Yes, I remember.
59 to 95. The only difference in the community in that time, and this is my viewpoint, is the ditch that's on Cincinnati Brookville Road from Church Street west to just past the 4-mile marker, which is right about the hump as you make that curve. Now, we're talking about spending a lot of money, and it's not going to be done for a while. Is there any chance we can find out from the state why they created that ditch? what is the benefit of that? That water, some of that water is being brought from over a mile away into Okeana. Everything along the railroad right away from the store, well, from Wynn Road to 6452 Cincinnati Brookville Road, which is the curve before you start right down the long straightaway toward the railroad trestle. All of that water is brought into Okeana. From the top of that hill behind the railroad, all that watershed comes to the railroad. There's 4 places that it comes under the railroad, and it's funneled right into Okeana, with the exception of where the ditch is from Church Street to that 4-mile marker. Before that ditch was created, the farmer that run that, the people, the family that farmed that ground there, my dad we have a garage here in Okeana right there on the north side of the road there at that intersection. When they would farm that, they would drive their equipment right up out of the field, across the road, and use our well to fill their corn planter or whatever they were using to plant. Drive right back down into the field. I used to ride a motorcycle over in that field. That ditch was created sometime in the late 80s. I'd like to know if we can find out from the state, if the state did it, why it was done.
So
If you
that
go down and look at that ditch, there are Cincinnati Bell telephone poles in the ditch. Now, how does anybody dig a ditch around a telephone pole?
But if
The state. Now, would they do that?
but I
The
know
levee, where that dirt is drug out of that, is levied up on the inside, on opposite of the road. It's 4 feet high. The road department here, they mowed the weeds on it for us and keep that intersection clean, so you can at least see to get out of the intersection there. But there's not another field on the creek side of Cincinnati Brookville Road all the way through there that has a ditch. It runs off the road. It dissipates into the field. I asked one of the family members of that family that farmed that field down there. They knew. I said, there was never a ditch there. What did that water do? And he told me that at that mile from the extension of that ditch, it just dissipated out into that field on a diagonal. And when it got down past the KFP hall, there was a small ditch that picked it up and took it behind the house where it was torn down here, where Fegley has built his new pole barn. All of us kids played in that yard. We know that ditch was there. But that's where the water was allowed to dissipate into the field just like it does on every other field out through there. But it's been diverted around that field. Yeah, right down, and since then, maybe I shouldn't complain. I've got 4 inches, my sidewalk in my front yard is 4 inches lower than my yard. I've had that much topsoil wash in. But I'm in a floodplain now. House hasn't moved, but I'm in a floodplain. Everybody back in that corner is in a floodplain. We all are forced to pay flood insurance. And it's big money for some of them.
Frankie, the only thing that I see that if you fill that ditch in, which it seems like when that ditch was not 6 foot deep, it ran west, or it ran south.
Well, no,
across that field.
Well, there used to be the property line between the Reinhardt field and the Jeffries side, which is now owned by Wurzelbacher. There was a hedgerow down through there.
Yeah.
Okay, back in the early 70s when we had the oil embargo and fuel skyrocketed and people started putting wood stoves in their houses and burning their houses down and stuff like that, it happened. That hedgerow was cut out for firewood, and then it was just gradually the 2 fields were manicured together. We all assumed that was where the ditch was. But I actually talked to someone who was involved in farming that field, and he said, no, there never was a ditch. There was just a natural swale because that's where the water wanted to go. And his dad used to furrow it up once in a while. He might take a plow and maybe raise the edge of it to kind of help divert it that way. But there was no ditch on Cincinnati Brookville Road until, like I said, the 88. I closed the garage in 87, and I honestly don't remember it being there then. I've still got the motorcycle I used to ride in that field. Don't ride it, but Evel Knievel wouldn't jump that ditch now. So, or he'd get paid to do it. But, yeah, I think if we got this much time, why don't we find out if that thing, if that's why, that is the reason that Church Street ditch is overflowing, all that water comes in there and it can't take it. The funnel just keeps getting smaller, and then the corn stalks wash out of the field. They plug the pipe up there in front of the KFP hall, which slows things down. It all runs across Church Street and then right down through the middle of town. And right along Drewsburg Road, and then it jumps, but, you know, and like you said, all the dirt and stuff and gravel that washes into that, it's, the Church Street ditch is just a swale. It's a trough. It's not really a ditch. It's just a low spot between the field and the road. And it never dries out. Even it runs so slow that the drains that come under the railroad, there's 4 places where the water comes under the railroad. One down by the restaurant, and you can see what happens down there. It actually runs right out on the road. Up just east of the Church Street intersection, there's a spot where it comes through.
Yep. And
comes down to Cincinnati Brookville, makes a zig, goes under the road, goes right through the center of Okeana. The next one is there at Reinhardt's Farm where all the mud and slot, that's railroad water that causes that. That's where it comes under the road, and all that water comes back to Okeana. And then up we're on the curve there where it's right there at that jaunt in the road, there's another drain, and it's got its own ditch that runs all the way to the creek.
let me ask you this, when was the railroad put in?
Long time ago.
They had to be put in when they
Well, it
built
was
the railroad,
yeah, you're right, but, and well, you went up there with me, and you've been
I've
up there with me,
a couple
you see
times
how
after
much
heavy
water that
rains.
place will hold up there. I
And
mean,
look.
you can see the high water mark on trees. Hell, that water's 12, 13 feet deep in places. You could run a houseboat up in there. I mean, as wide as it is, like say 12, 13 feet deep and maybe 50, 60 feet across at the top.
Well, that last time when it flooded down there, I went across and there wasn't nothing.
So,
Cause what's the lady right next to you? Cause I told her what I was doing, cause she's kinda wondering what I was doing parking in your place and going up through there.
cauliflower? Jan Cauliflower.
Yeah. And I went up there on the backside and there wasn't much.
Well, the drains, the water's still, I mean, the water, we have an inch of rain and that ditch will run for a week. That's how, just the pressure of the buildup of the water, the more water is, the more pressure, and the more it forces it through, and as it starts to get drained, it slows down, but it never hardly ever quits running. And I mean, there's another factor there too, mosquitoes. You know, we got a mosquito pit a quarter of a mile long down through there. So, I mean, it's not, like I say, if we got, this is just my opinion, I think that ditch is the big culprit. It sure has made, you know, in my opinion, and I've been there for a lot of it, everything that comes out of there. I mean, I've been there all the time.
I guess my question would be, if the ditch wasn't there and it's going out in the field, then it's just gonna come in.
Yes, but it has a lot of area to dissipate in. The only water that hits that field is what falls out of the sky right now. And it's on gravel.
But then how are we getting the corn stalks? They gotta be floating throughout the field.
They're coming around, it comes around Church Street, and the field is a little lower, and then it floods into the field, goes around behind the KFP hall and washes everything right on down. So even after they did all that work on that, the county putting a new manifolding in the culverts under Drewsburg Road, the next time we had a big rain, we had high water, they were out there pulling the grates off, and I've got pictures of dump trucks loads of stalks just shoveled out of those things. So, I mean, and like I say, 59 to 95, and just about any time we get we get 3 inches of rain over 2 or 3 days, and we're starting to watch for water coming. And we used to, when we were kids, heck, it'd rain all week. And, well, anyhow, like I said, that's my opinion.
What the county is proposing, because you're more involved in that than anybody. their plan is.
Well, first off, is there are upgrading the piping that's in front of the KFP hall there.
Is this gonna be a buried, covered,
Yes.
is it?
It's gonna be buried.
So all the water is still gonna come into town and go through that, so all the stuff that's being washed into the ditch now that fills it up will be washing into the pipe.
And it should flow. It should, that water should,
They-
you shouldn't allow that swale to fill up and end up street level. It should maintain the flow through
They
the
are going
subterranean.
to widen the ditch from the north edge of the KFP lot up to the intersection with 126. They're gonna widen that ditch out and clean it out, even though we try to, the
Oh,
road department try to keep it cleaned out as much as possible, but like you said, every time the rain comes up, half of Johnny Reinhardt's lot ends up right there, and we have to clean it out again. And we're still gonna have to do that even after they do all this work.
Well, I know he catches a lot of grief over that, but he's exhausted himself to try to get the railroad to do something about it up every day. I mean, it boils up right out of the ground, but
But in any case, getting back to
Yeah,
what they're doing
yeah.
is, that's the first stage of it, up of that part there. That's gonna stay an open ditch up there.
it'll be open.
That'll be open from the intersection to the north edge of the KFP lot.
Okay.
At the KFP lot, I think it's a 24 that, they call it a squash pipe, but it's a metal pipe in there right now. They're going to go to it's either 28 or a 30-inch concrete pipe, flat bottom, that way, because it's going with a bigger pipe, it's not gonna have as much cover, so that's why they're going to a concrete pipe, which will give the smooth inside. Hopefully it'll let that flow through better, because the corrugated metal slows it down, traps the dirt, and then it builds up and then cakes in, and it doesn't let it flow as well. So they're putting a bigger pipe in there, but it's going to be lengthened from the north edge of the KFP hall. Right now, it starts about midways of the KFP hall there. So they're gonna come up to the north edge with a bigger pipe, and then they're gonna go all the way to the south edge of John Fegley's new pole barn. And then they was going to pipe it all the way to the new culvert that they're gonna put. You know, right now it hits at a 90-degree angle and goes. They're gonna put it at a 45 to try to get it to where it flows better, instead of hitting that 90 where it deadheads and then has to build up pressure and then go to the left. It'll hit that and make it go faster is what their plans are. That's gonna be a bigger pipe going on and catching the existing pipe that comes down along Okeana-Drewsburg. Now, once it gets to Okeana-Drewsburg, they're not doing anything to the existing pipe. That's all staying the same. Because the county says that when they upgraded and put the new pipes in a couple of years ago, that's all that they needed to do, and they say that's all that they're gonna do right now. But hopefully by this 45-degree pipe there, that's gonna hopefully help it. But like I said, they was gonna pipe it all the way, but I was down there when they was doing the plans and said, hold on a second, I've got these pictures of it coming out of the field back behind where the old house used to be there. I said, how's that water gonna get in to the pipe there? Because it's still, and that water's coming from, as this last rain, it come up out of the creek and come down along the edge of the road, and that added to the water to come off the hill, which gave us even a bigger problem. But that's when they decided to leave that open instead of putting because they was just gonna put a catch basin there. Like, there is no way a catch basin is gonna catch that excess water when the creek jumps out of the banks up there west of Mrs. Jeffrey's old house. So now they're gonna leave that open, about a 10, 12-foot area there for the water to get into that open ditch and then continue on down into the piping area. And that's basically the plan for now.
So they're gonna bring it down to that ditch next to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Are they gonna do anything with the ditch the way it is today? Nothing?
Not to my
Not
knowledge.
to my knowledge or not. That's something that we need to discuss with them.
Bottlenecks down there, you know,
Right, and I,
It goes from a 5 foot, 6 foot wide down to 2 foot.
right. And that is something that we need to address with the county engineer's office, is basically that's considered a county ditch that goes between your place and the
Partial.
the parsonage of the church there.
That actually was a state project, it brought water from 126.
A state project.
State's the one that did it, but the county got the lease.
Well, I know the county calls it a county ditch, because
Well, they take
we
care of it.
had went to them, back when I first started with the township, you know, they would never let me get in there and cut it, so we had to always get with the county to cut it. Then they finally let me start getting in there to cut it, that way we could keep it cut down more. Well, now you keep it all mowed so nice that we don't have to get in there anymore, but
Nobody else will help.
but I will say that by you keeping it the way it is, it doesn't let it hold all this, you know, with all the tall weeds and stuff in there, it doesn't let it hold back, and it lets it get through quicker,
I
but,
mean, they made a ditch in 1947, and it's never been trenched or anything since. We got tree roots that are this high in it, growing from one side to the next.
right.
It's really a problem, and then they put the new culverts in, and I've never seen water run up. Culverts were lower than the ground is.
Right now, when Church Street runs down into Okeana Drewsburg, does that culvert go 90 degrees along Okeana Drewsburg? Does it come down Church Street on the north side of Church Street, and then does it turn
No,
left?
it comes from Church Street down there, and there is an angle, it angles under Drewsburg and comes at one pipe, then there's another pipe that comes through the middle of, one of them is fed through the middle of, and as I understand, there's a bi-level in there, one pipe's actually higher than the other one, and it doesn't come into play until the water really comes hard or something, I don't know.
Because
The
it
pipe
appeared-
that we're replacing, it comes down Church Street, 90's under Church Street, and there's a
Okay.
concrete storm drain that goes down the north side of Okeana Drewsburg. Now, at 3 different places, there are 3 different catch basins, and they have them, the big one that's right by the ditch, it goes by Judy and Frankie's old
Right.
house where they grew up. That is the biggest pipe at the lowest level. You come back to the west, coming back towards Church Street, at the next catch basin, there's I can't remember the size of the pipe, but it's elevated in that catch basin to where it only flows water when the water gets so high, then it starts taking it. And then you come back to a third catch basin where there's a smaller pipe that's elevated even higher, that once those first 2 get full, then it lets it start going down it, but all of them empty out on Judy's and Frankie's side of where Judy lives now, but all of them empty into that ditch right there, but they come at an angle.
Right, because the plan is showing there's an existing 90, but the new construction looks like it's going to be.
You're talking about the intersection of Church
At the
Street, right?
intersection of
He's
Okeana-
talking about down there in front of my sister's house where
That's where we're talking, Okeana Drewsburg
Yeah.
and Church.
Yeah.
So it looks like the new construction does not 90 degree.
No, it's 45.
Yeah.
It goes to an angle, and it probably is a higher capacity. So Judy, it looks like it might even be south of perhaps your yard. So it might relieve some of the pressure off your yard.
Well,
It's all gonna dump in her yard. They're leaving the existing pipes where hers is.
She's down in Church Street.
what needs to happen there by Judy's house is like she was saying, is
Where it
the
all
actual
comes out.
open ditch that comes from where all that comes through the piping goes underneath the Okeana Drewsburg, where the main pipe and the 2 auxiliary pipes all come out at one point, and then it's an open ditch. That open ditch does need to be cleaned out all the way to the creek. That way that lets it get away, and that'll help drain all that coming down through that pipe. Get rid of it quicker when it's got someplace to go, because right now, like they're saying, once it comes out of that pipe, it's gotta come uphill and water, so that in turn holds
Slows
it
it
back,
down.
slows it down, and then that in turn holds it all back up in there, so that's that needs to be done, and hopefully we can convince them to do that as all part of the project, and that would just be them getting in there, cleaning out the ditch all the way to the creek so the water can flow like it needs to.
Has the ditch that Frankie's talking about in Cincinnati Brookville ever been addressed with the engineer's office, why it's there?
Not with the engineer's office, because the state is the one that put that in.
The
State highway put that in, but
126.
the current gentleman that I know, that I deal with, his name is Shane, it was all done before he ever got there, so he has no clue on it. Now, I've been told a guy by the name of Charlie Sargent was the one that orchestrated all that, and on west of there, a guy by the name of John Fagley owns there's Dave Witzelbacher, there's Dave Witzelbacher, John Reinhardt, and then John Fagley. John Fagley's,
Not Fagley,
John Bulak.
yeah.
John Bulak owns the next field, and he is in constant battles with them right now because they did a ditch across from him, and they're trying to make water run uphill there too, because it all was filtering underneath of the road just through the dirt itself, and he says he can't farm the first 6 or 8 rows of his field in the spring because it's so wet, because they won't clean the ditch out right. He said he told them back when they did all that how to do it, and well, that's a whole nother story, but in any case.
So if there's no history, the new person that was not involved in it, if there's no history, can they look at it again and see what the purpose is?
Well, that's when Mr. Marshall over here was talking about researching this possibility of the right-of-way to the well. Do you have any way you could do the same thing on the ditch? I mean, is that your department? I mean,
No, not really.
Probably
Like I
didn't,
say,
but I mean, if you gotta contact.
since we're not gonna turn any dirt on this project for months anyhow,
Probably late August, early September at
okay,
the earliest.
what would be the chances of finding out
That's
why
right.
that's there and when it was done? And
I do have I can't remember his last name, but he is an engineer with ODOT, up in Lebanon. His first name's Mark. I've got his email back there. I can shoot him an email and see if there's anything that he's got from up at the district office. I know Shane at the Butler County garage, there's nothing on file on it at the Butler County garage, but maybe the district has something on it.
If they can, maybe what the reason they put it in 88 or 85, whenever it was.
well, I'm sure it was after '87. And the reason I say, I'm not gonna say I remember everything I've ever seen or ever done. I have no recollection of that ditch being there before then, but I do know I came home from work one day and I had an antique truck bed that was out on my lot sitting on a couple of 55-gallon oil barrels, and it was under several tons of dirt that had been dumped on it when it was done, so. I wasn't real thrilled about it, but what you do. So,
You can do that, Rob, and just let us know.
I mean, I'll put it this way, you could get me out of your hair real easy.
I don't have much hair.
That's the bug in my bonnet, that ditch, and if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong, but I have very strong feelings about it. Thank you.
Mrs. Poe?
Yeah, tonight, I got this second. I'm sitting back here dying. Mom says, oh boy, here she comes.
I didn't say a word.
I know you didn't say a word because you know all the answers, seriously. Nancy Poe, former trustee. We've been down this road before. There were all the maps were there. We talked to ODOT. We talked to the county. We did a clean out, not we, they did. They did a clean out. And part of the problem, and that worked for a while. It went down alongside Judy's driveway. And eventually it filled up again. Needs to be done over again. And the other thing is, I don't know if there is an answer. If they change it from a 90 to a 45, that may help the situation. I'm not sure. Rob, you remember when we did that project before?
Well,
And
this is still the same project, it just never never.
Exactly, yeah. See, I wasn't aware of that, you said that, but yeah, you're right, yeah.
This
we
was
never-
the one that was started working on when you was still here, and
Yes.
it got postponed twice, and it's never came. Now we're trying to get it done and stuff, and
I have an application going all the way back to 2014.
Yeah, well, it was before that deal, I mean,
Yeah, well.
because
know
I
that.
came in office in 2000, and I don't remember what year we actually started on it. And I know part of that bend down there got cleaned out, and then, it was like people disappeared out and didn't come back. That was part of the problem. And while I'm here, I want to say this, and it's a political statement. For the newest member of your Board of Trustees should not be visiting any county office without one of the other two of you. He needs to get experience. He may have flew a desk when he was in the military, but I wouldn't set him loose any place yet. Took me at least 2 years to get my feet on the ground, and it wasn't because I happened to be a different sex. It took me 2 years to learn the ropes, and you all know I had a taskmaster when I came in. Thank you for the comment, the smile. But seriously, you need to back up and follow these guys' lead. They do know what they're doing. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that?
Nope. And I just need executive session.
Alrighty, I will go over the few things I've got, and then we'll go into executive. Mr. Marshall sent me an email of a James Frey that called, was complaining about some ATV on George. Hold on. Alright, I'll hold off.
Yeah, I would like to apologize for having to listen to that, Mr. Cole. I appreciate your input on what's going on here. And if some people are out of line by trying to do a little extra, then I guess that's the problem with the country. Anyhow, I'm embarrassed for you.
And Brett, the name is Fry, even though it's spelled Frey.
James
Fry.
Fry.
Yeah, that's the way he pronounces it. So.
Which after many calls, could not get a hold of him, so I kept trying. I did get a hold of him last night, but it seems that he went on vacation. We had a talk, so I was talking about the ATVs and the motorcycles that Arcaro did on the back corner lot. He says, I don't have a problem with the noise. I don't have a problem with them riding. I'm all right with that. The only problem is they put it right on the corner, and it creates so much dust. He says, I had to throw half my steak away the other night. We grilled out, they were riding. He says, I just couldn't take eating the dirt. He says, I have a swimming pool. So I told him I would try to go to Arcaro and see if there's any way that if they can move that more in the center when they ride. I mean, he does have construction. Maybe he has a water truck. They can wet it down before they ride. Just something, try to work with the neighbors. Did not make it there last night. I didn't get in until like 9, but I will try to stop and see him. Also got a call from a Sam, don't know the last name. He's still not called me back. I've left messages. And that's something else, Howard's Creek, about riding motorcycles on the road and everything else.
there
And
was
then,
a house that was sold, 4500 block of Howard's Creek Road. There was a house that was sold there. The new owners moved in and I guess have kids with dirt bikes and quad runners, and they're
is
racing
he the
all
one
over.
that just moved in, or
He-
the other one's just moved in?
No, Sam has lived there for years.
Okay,
Lived next door to the Lamers used to live in this house at 4500. Mr. Lamer had MS. They moved from the house to a facility where it's easier for her to take care of him because he's immobile. They sold the house to this new people. Not for sure who they are, but that's where the dirt bikes came from.
okay. I'll still try to get a hold of him. Then the third one was a Roy Scott at 4463 Howard's Creek. I went down and I visited him. He had a couple complaints about the neighbor next door, about possible junk cars and them running the business, which I explained where we are with the zoning there, and he's all right there. I also sent him the ORCs for the junk cars and everything, because I asked him, I said, well, can you see them from the road? And he said, no, especially in the winter when there's, or in the summer when there's trees, you can't see it at all. I kind of looked at it, and from reading what you are on the junk cars and what they've got there, I don't think we can legally do anything, but I told him I would reread it over. He reads it over, we get back together, because in the ORC it says if they're blocked by buildings, you've got fences around them, or you have them in a garage, they're legal. That pretty well fits his bill, because you can't see them unless you're on the back of his property and you're looking over the fence right on them. So we were talking about that at the present time. And I guess since we're not going to get an intern until possibly later, we're going to have to do more of that cleanup on our own, because I was hoping to use them as well to try to push some of that. All right, if you guys want to go to executive.
Okay.
As I believe we have it for Dale, Jeff, and you? Yes. For personnel or?
Personnel.
All right, I'll make a motion at 8:29 to go to executive session
I'll second
for
that.
personnel reasons.
I'll second
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mr. Brucker,
that. Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
We are adjourned to executive session.
Give me a few minutes and then I'll be back.
Mine's very short. I appreciate it.
I watched it, I looked on the radar on my phone before the meeting started, and it looked like it went across the top like that. We need it. We ain't got it, but we need it. So,
Tomorrow morning, I have to take this to get a shot.
okay, okay.
Yeah. On the way back, because you'll be here.
vents or anything, oh my God. It would be hot. Can you run fans at least? Yeah, but that still doesn't, yeah. And yeah, if we have, that's, if you have, this, that's all. Take all the canisters out there and then back inside the brand. So we're trying to now third. Yes.
I'll get her first.
I'm not gonna get it, I'm just telling you.
I'm not, I understand this, and this is not gonna get to that. But I was kinda curious.
So you understand
So
what
I'm
I'm
not,
talking about.
I understand.
This right here, this piece here, and the face piece, this is the new generation. What they told me at FDIC is, they're gonna, they send this rubber piece here, that's from the ultra elite mask, and they're gonna put it into this and into this face piece. It's the old rubbers, not the new rubber. They just sent you another G1 mask and a different lot number, is all they did. They didn't send you the old certificate. Yeah, they didn't send, yeah, where's your other mask? I bet the lot numbers
Said
was
you
off.
didn't want it.
Well, we're just comparing lot numbers now.
That's the second one, I think.
Right, but I bet the first lot number is not that far off.
So I'm gonna get them for attempted murder.
I think they should have to pay some, because they knew they weren't fixing the problem. They were just trying to pass something
And
on.
that gets into more legal fees.
I know.
Well,
But-
I gotta get through this conference. Next week, if I have heard anything, I'm gonna ask Gary, who is the Ohio MSA rep? I want to talk to him.
So I'm not at-will employees there?
You're not, it's a city. It's different.
I didn't know that.
Part-time township employees, or at will, I can get rid of you if you sneeze. I can
No,
fire
you
you
can't
with
do
no
a
reason.
frickin' thing.
He can fire
You
you.
can tell him
No,
to.
basically, no reason. These guys are all acting like I can fire any of them for no reason.
Well, what can we do with you? We'll just shoot you.
Can't touch me, I'm not 50 years.
Agency,
I'm
absolutely.
full-time, and you can't touch me, I'm full-time. That's what I'm-
Oh, I can touch you with a 2x4. Yeah, and I got female, so I'm gonna make it even worse. Do you guys think you need me for any reason?
No, we don't.
Jeff, you don't need me in yours, do you?
Not in this one.
Okay.
Not in this one?
Alright, I guess I'm going home. It's gonna go do.
Oh, I'm emerging quick. My mind is very, 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 very.
That was awesome. Have fun. You're trying not to laugh. You're doing a good job. I know. Still ignored me. He's gonna come up there. And I know you. I'm going to. Leadership finals. So I left the house at 6 this morning. I walked in my house at 5:15. I walked in here at 6. I get
answer my exact question. What do I think that is? Yeah, don't talk to the monitor, she was fine. That doesn't seem to me. And I'm like, Shane, we need to take you to the hospital. I really don't want to go to the hospital. This is exactly what I did. I just did it in her ear so that I could say she was hearing something, what she was talking about. And she was in such pain.
Is he asking for Mimi, Nana, Mama?
And yes, I delivered a 12-year-old. That was really bad. No, I wasn't. That was really bad. She said probably not funny. Very funny. It was happy. And when we were together, and I just said, giant. It's right. Oh, I hear. I'm dead. Officer goes, Penny, yeah, don't say another word. It looked white. I mean, it was very, I learned later, it was it was more Latino than black. It was very light skinned. When it came out, it was very pale. It's white. Yeah, I'm gonna die. Oscar just goes, Penny, don't say another word, none of that. Excuse me, giant tree, I need to leave now. I've been close to death several times. That one would have been my fault. And that was really close. They're not black. It's white. I mean, white, you know. Oh. jerks in the pool. That's hilarious.
We're safe right now, this is a bowling movie.
It is, that is hilarious.
You wouldn't feel like that.
No, no, no. And then, we had to bring it, it was very, very fun.
This one was 18.
And I don't mean, well, I don't mean sexual, I don't mean like that, it's just handle with CPR, is extremely beneficial to my research. With the numbers of carbon dioxide. She's been handing that out. That's where, so that's why they've taken most IU2 hospitals is why we take AHA and AHA from the first AHA still says do that. Do that now. They're getting ready to change that accreditation. So let's see, in a day, 5 district loans. How many hours? I work 96.
Carol's gonna be upset with me. Sorry, Carol. All right, at 10:03, a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll second that.
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Are back in session.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Kolb?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Sorry, Carol, I'll turn that off. I got to stop it.